Brian.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Good morning everyone, and welcome to this sunrise safari on Thursday morning, an inevitably beautiful morning here in autumn South Africa. We're in the northeast corner of South Africa, the world's most beautiful country, and the dawn has just broken, and a small herd of waterbuck is walking gently across this clearing with the backing, the golden backing of the African dawn. Hyenas are calling in the background. Impala are shouting at each other as well. And a lion has just called its last. I think it was drinking just recently down over there at the dam cam. You told us that, Aaron. Thank you very much for that update. My name is James Henry. On camera today we have Brian, the thumb Joubert. Hello, Brian.
Hello, James. How
Yes,
are you?
nice to see you. Yes,
you
yes.
too.
Yeah. On the other vehicle, Samuel is driving about the place. He's being filmed by David. In the final control, we have Kirsten McLennan-Smith, ably assisted by Geraldine the Cheesecake Kent. It is a warmish, well, not warm, it's a chilly-ish, 15 degrees centigrade, 59 degrees Fahrenheit. It looks like I'm dressed for a prolonged expedition to the South Pole. It's not actually that bad. Brian's got a very large blankie over his legs. I have a small blankie over my legs. Our plan this morning is to head down sort of towards the south of the reserve and then towards the east and see if we can't pick up on those lions. We did hear them roaring as we got up, but they've got sort of further and further away as the light has started to build. And I think they've probably called their last and will be settling fairly soon. We might be wrong, we might find them moving, but it is going to be a wonderful day regardless. You are on a live safari, so that means you must please talk to us. Hashtag SafariLIVE or questions at WildEarth.tv if you're on the email. Any questions or comments you have, take some screenshots, send them through on either of those two platforms. We'd love to see what your impressions and hear your impressions of this African dawn as we drive into it and as the day develops into another magnificent African wonder. On we go. Brian, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Marvelous. Hello, Max Mom. You say when you listen to the African dawn, you realize why you live in Africa. Well, I have to tell you, Max Mom, I agree with you completely. This is half the reason that I live where I do. The joy of getting up at this time of the day, even when I'm not driving, I get up round about now, because this is just such a very extra special time. Just before the sun peeps over the horizon. Let's just see if we can spot those guinea fowls. I'm just certainly going to stop so that you can hear them. There are some guinea fowl just calling over there. You can hear them there. Oh, there we are, Brian, on the ground there, between those two. Hello, Aaron. Yeah, Aaron again. You say that you are starting your bird list today. Well, Aaron, there you go. Number 1, guinea fowl, helmeted guinea fowl. And they're calling because they've just sort of, I guess they're laying some territory, but it's not entirely unlike their alarm call, but they wouldn't be alarm calling from the ground. They'd be shouting from inside a tree. So I'm sure it's just part of their dawn chorus. And a francolin. There you go, Aaron. Number 2, crested francolin. Is it crested, Brian?
Not sure. Yeah, looks like it is.
I think it is crested. I can't see properly. So you've got helmeted guinea fowl, crested francolin, 2 birds on your list. Now, Aaron, you need to tell us, of course, if you're prepared to put something on your list, if you've only just heard it, or if you have to see it. Some twitchers are very happy to just hear the birds. So let us know, and I'll point out the sounds, and you can add those to your list too. I think given that you are a pretty experienced live safari goer, the sound might be sufficient. just very, very precious down here. There goes our little family of waterbuck in front of us. They're just heading off into the bush. They'll go and find something nice to eat. Some grass laden with dew, which unfortunately will become more and more sparse as the dry season goes on, but they're adapted to dealing with that. They have done for many millennia. Right, as the waterbuck's bottom disappears into the bushes, let us go across to Samuel Chevalier, find out what he's going to do this afternoon, depending on where you are, I suppose, if you're in Australia, and I'll catch up with you probably by the Djuma Dam camp.
Good morning, everyone, to SafariLIVE. Here we are sitting with 4 male impalas that look like they've all got their coats on this morning because they are quite cold. It's another chilly morning this morning as they walk across the road from us on our cut line. So we just came to check the 2 different cut lines on Buffelshoek and our cut line next to our Arethusa to see if anything might have crossed over the night. I know that we had some lines last night, which was very exciting. Camera today, you'll have Samuel Chevalier as your presenter through the bush, and you'll have Dave in the background as our cameraman getting the shots that we need to see from a distance. And I just want to say, Aaron would like to start a bird list. I'm going to start off. If anyone else would like to start a bird list, let's start together now. Aaron's here, even got cameraman Dave involved in starting a bird list. So he's got his pen and paper out to see if he can find any other birds here this morning. So if I see any bird, I'm just going to note it out. Okay, so let's start together, let's start fresh, and let's go and see what we can find. Last night, we had the most epic sighting of lions roaring. It was incredible. We went through into the block, and I took Dave, Rebecca, and Jean-Ray's friend, and we went for quite some time through the thicket, and then we couldn't find them, and the only way we found them was this male lion roaring, and we found them through their roar. And it's just incredible how they roar, and they were lying on the ground roaring so that it could reverberate throughout the bush. It was just a very, very incredible feeling to be around that. So hopefully one day we'll have the opportunity to do that together in the future. But for now, let's see if we can find those male lions that are somewhere out here. Chances are they probably have left the area because... So the morning started off. James has got himself a bird of prey. Let's go and see what it is.
More accurately, 2 birds of prey. There you go, Aaron. Number 3 on your list, the tawny eagle. Now, I would normally sort of try and tell you how I know they're tawny eagles, but oh, there we go. Brian's managed to brighten the picture. They are tawny eagles, and they are tawny eagles for 2 reasons. I don't know why I said 2 reasons. They're tawny eagles for the following reasons. Can you see the difference in the color of the wing and the chest? That is very distinctive of them. They're obviously feathered down to the bottom of their feet. Now, at this time of the year, you know that there's only one brown eagle here. There's only one true brown eagle here. The only other sort of large brown bird of prey that we get here would be a juvenile batelier or a brown snake eagle, neither of which are feathered down to their feet like that. So you know that's the most obvious and easy way to know that this is a tawny eagle. It is a true eagle, and it's winter, and so therefore that must be a tawny. But also look at the one at the bottom and look how scruffy he is. See, he looks like his feathers are all kind of puffed out and scruffy. That's very distinctive of a tawny eagle. They just tend to not look quite as sleek and smooth as some of the others. It's a really nice picture of them. They don't often in pairs like this. And they'll be looking with quite a lot of interest as that Birmingham boy number 2 disappears from this area. They would have probably seen him having his drink. And they are, of course, scavengers, which means they'll keep an eye on the terrestrial-based predators, the lions and leopards and wild dogs and hyenas, and then they will try and pilfer the odd bit of food that gets left on the ground, hopefully before the vultures get to it. They, rather like the batalier, live in a sort of midway world. They do kill for themselves, but they do like to scavenge as well, but they've got to get in just after the terrestrial predators and just before the big vultures get to the carcasses. Very nice. Look at that sharp hooked beak, so distinctive of all meat-eating birds. And you can see how a bird like this, which is a scavenger, has a beak probably much better adapted than a vulture's beak, for example, to getting at the smaller parts of meat. A vulture's got a big, heavy beak, and that's quite difficult for it to get into the small, sinewy bits of flesh that occur between the joints. And a tawny eagle's beak is ideally shaped for doing that, a bit like a dentist's pick, if you like. Ooh, that reminds me, I probably need to go and see a dentist at some stage. Look how sharp that is. That is incredible. It is astounding how sharp that is. And just to give you an idea of their size, they're probably about 2 feet tall, maybe slightly shorter. No, they're about 2 feet tall. From tail to the top of the head, 2 feet. Alrighty, let's move on. See if we can pick up some tracks of the lion that Aaron saw, drinking at the pan. Plenty of elephant tracks come through here, so lots of elephants during the night. Pretty early in the night, and I can tell they're early in the night because there are little ant hills. And I don't mean termite mounds, I mean little excavations from the ants that have already got up and started moving around. The ants don't have much of a lion very often. Now Siberia, you say the lions walked north towards Mvubu Road. Well, that's up towards where Sam's going, so with any luck he'll pick them up there. And I will kind of mosey on towards the south and east and see if they didn't turn that way. Because often what they do from here is either go up Mvubu Road into Buffelshoek, or they go towards Buffelshoek Dam, which is sort of east of us in that direction there. Oh, what a gorgeous morning. Here are some impalas. One should always stop for some impalas, and we've always got a nyala. A young bull nyala. Don't know where to look, Brian. There we go. Good choice. My favourite antelope. Hello, Red. Red, yes, you're absolutely correct, and it happened to me just last night. You say, do antelope get stunned by bright light like deer do? Absolutely they do. And I had an incident yesterday. I was driving quietly back to camp after drive, and there was a impala sitting in some bush, and he saw the lights come past. He got totally stunned, and he leapt in front of us. Now, thankfully, of course, we're driving the game reserve, so we're going very slowly. But had we been going, for example, along a main road at 60 miles an hour, it would have been a huge problem. So absolutely, they get completely stunned by the bright lights. On we go. Bit of cloud gathering to the south, which is both ominous and intriguing at the same time. Not so, Brian?
Very much so.
Yeah. Ooh. And this is quite interesting. It's quite interesting. It's not mind-blowing, but it's quite interesting. You see that little bit of termite mound there, Brian?
Yeah.
That's probably, everybody, was placed there by elephants. Just that little ball on the ground. Now, elephant bulls, like I've said before, get bored And they will go and they'll break these things off. They'll find one on the ground, they'll kick it off, and then they'll pick it up and they'll carry it about for a bit and then drop it. So I cannot see the mound from which this came. In fact, I can. It's in that pile of sticks that Brian was showing you a little bit earlier. That's been kicked off by an elephant bull, probably a young elephant bull. He's picked it up, he's moved it down here, and he's kind of dumped it there on the sand. And I'm pretty sure that it came from that bit of termite mound underneath the tree there. And the elephants move away the dead wood, pick out the good grass. Obviously he got a bit bored, picked up a piece of termite mound, kicked it about a bit, and then dropped it over here. Shame. The Djuma Cam says those tawny eagles are mating. Oh, there they are. They may well be. You see them there, Brian? Yep. Oh, one was just on top of the other, apparently. That's fascinating. Well done, Zoomy, for seeing that. Let's watch them for 1 minute and see if they don't decide again to become friendly with each other. I would have thought this was a strange time for them to be mating. I'm just going to quickly check my field guide, because of course it is going into the winter, and maybe the tawny eagle mates in the winter time in order to avoid the competition of the other eagles. And because he's a scavenger, lots of things die during the winter, of course, and maybe that's a very good time for them to breed. Let me check. I might be talking utter nonsense. What do you think, Brian?
Sounds plausible.
It does. Thank you very much. Breeding. Movements. No breeding we want. Monogamous, solitary nester, southeast, blah, 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 blah. Blah, blah. Laying dates. March to September in Zimbabwe. April to June in South Africa. July. Gee whiz. Northeast South Africa, which is of course where we are, April to July, 80 of 88 records, May and June. There we go. So that's exactly what's going on. I think that's fantastic to hear. So all the other eagles that do breed here, for example, the Wahlberg's eagle, they breed in the summertime. And indeed, so do the steppe. They just don't do it here. The steppe eagle, for example, and the lesser spotted eagle, which don't breed in this country, go off towards their northern breeding grounds, and they breed in the summer because that's the most logical time to breed. That's when there's most food. But if you happen to be a scavenger that eats dead food, well, then winter's a very good time to be breeding. That's fantastic. Let's just, while we're here and watching those and waiting to see if they engage again, let's just have a look at the vultures and find out if they breed at this time of the year. That'll be quite interesting to know, because if the tawny eagle does, I see no reason why the vulture would not. We'll look at the most common vulture, that is the white-backed vulture. Here we go. Breeding. This is an extremely long explanation. Laying dates, here we go. April, June. Also. Ha! That's great. I had no idea. Learn something new every day you do out here, Brian. So the scavenging birds are more likely to breed during the winter time. Excellent. And of course, remember that of course one of the major predators of young birds would be other raptors, so other birds of prey. Now, by breeding now, those tawny eagles avoid the attentions of many of the raptors, which of course go overseas during the course of the winter. That's fascinating. Okay, we're going to move on, everybody. You keep an eye on the Djuma Dam cam and the incredible Zoomy that managed to capture them mating. And you can see if they do it again. We're going to carry on down Twin Dams. In the meantime, the man who is normally behind a tree or on top of a termite mound or hiding behind a combretum bush now you find him fully in front of camera. Stefan, the mystic boer, is on bushwalk. Have a look at this.
Good morning, and I know that we're looking at the same tawny eagles that James has just been looking at, and no, I'm not hiding behind a bush like is predicted by James. We're actually standing in the middle of quarantine open area, tracking the lions that we've seen around camp last night. I'm not the world's best tracker, that's for sure. We've already lost the tracks once or twice, but we'll pick them up again, there's no doubt. So, just for those who I haven't said hello to yet this morning, good morning, I'm Stefan Winterboer, and we are hosting a bushwalk, myself and Genre on camera this morning. And our mission, as I just said, is to try and find the 3 male lions that were around our camp last night. They weren't roaring until too late. I'm going to predict that they're going to have walked a little bit far, but you know, you never know with these lions. Lions are one of those funny cats. They can walk. The furthest I've ever tracked a male lion is 25 kilometers, about 18 miles or so. The shortest was lions literally lying within sight of where we left them the night before, after they had done a big patrolling loop around their territory, literally 100 meters from where they were, 100 yards from where they were. So I don't know where these lions are going to go. We had male lion tracks on the floor right where we're standing right now. There's been a bit of traffic. Eugene has driven up and down here this morning, and in the dark, who was it, Sam and James have left this morning coming out on this road, so they may have driven over the track slightly. But we'll find them. That's the beauty of being on foot. We're traveling at a fraction of the speed that the cars are traveling in, and we get to notice these finer details, absolutely. But have a look now. I'm going to take you back to the sunset or sunrise at least, that's happening as we're busy speaking. The sky going this beautiful, I don't know what to describe that color as, what do you think there, John? Sort of orangey, peachy color. And we've got those 2 tawny eagles there. I did hear from Kirsty that you saw them mating. I'm jealous. You don't see that very often, I'll be quite honest with you. Seeing mating tawny eagles is literally confined to this time of the year. Most of the large raptors will mate at the beginning of winter, lay their eggs in winter, and fledge their young as we go into the dry period of the year. And the reason for that is that, at least for tawny eagles, they are carrion feeders. The majority of their food that they eat is scavenged off of kills. And obviously, as animals start to concentrate around pans and around dams, the lions and leopard and cheetah and wild dogs start to kill a lot more frequently than what they do in the summertime. In the summertime, things are very dispersed, difficult for the tawny eagles to find food. But in winter, it's much easier with everybody or everything coming to pans and to dry areas. There's a lot more carcasses to see and to find, especially with the vegetation that doesn't have any leaves on it. And that's what they do. So it would seem like it's a bad time of year to have babies, but in actual fact for them, it's the best time of year to have babies. And that's because there's an overabundance of food. It's easy to see and it's concentrated in a smaller area. And that's why they are mating with one another right now. But have a look at that sun coming up. It's changed from a peachy rosy color to starting to get to this brilliant yellow that I so enjoy from watching sunsets or sunrises. Gee whiz, I'm mixing it up today. For me, the sky just sort of gets yellower and yellower to a almost golden, bursting golden color, and then the sun generally bursts over the horizon. It has, of course, already risen above the horizon. Thank you very much for saying good morning to me, everyone. I also miss being in front of camera from time to time. I'm with you on a lot of the bushwalks, but definitely not in front of the lens as much as what I used to be last year. You can see that yellow is now turning into a golden color. A little bit of dust and moisture in the atmosphere is giving it that diffused look. You can almost see it's gathering in intensity even as we wait here. We're going to appreciate the sunrise. There's not many of us in our normal day-to-day lives that can actually sit still, stand, and watch the sun come up or go down. It's a rare treat for a lot of people around the world. And although you may have missed it or will miss it where you're from, we'll definitely be sharing this with you. Sam also wants to share his sunrise with you. He's obviously waiting in a place with an as nice a view. So we're going to cut across to Sam. We're going to carry on looking for these lion tracks.
Have a look at our sunrise this morning. Such a beautiful shot of that sun coming over the east of Djuma. The birds are out. The tracks can't be seen yet of the male lion. But we thought we would have a quick stop and look at the beautiful sunrise this morning. We're off to learn a few more birds today, so we can hear them in the distance as we watch the last bit of the sunrise. I'm glad that you guys... Ooh, that looks like a flower. The sun in between those leaves, it looks really cool. It looks like a... sort of like a really big sunflower. How cool is that? And you can really see it's been about a minute that we were quiet there, and the sun is already above the horizon now. And it's going to warm us up a little bit, so hopefully I'll be able to take off some of the layers that I've got all over my body to keep warm. But we often take this sun for granted. So we're going to use the light of the sun now to help us track the different animals that might be here. And while the sunflower sun rises, we've been looking around to see what we can find, but we are in the area where the lions were last seen, and it seems like quite a wasteland. Everything is hiding or has run away, purely because those lions were making such a noise last night, displaying their dominance over the whole savannah. Especially, they had to do it because it rained 2 days ago, which would have washed away some of their scent. So they needed to do a lot of work last night, making noise over this savannah. And I'll tell you, everything's hiding behind a leaf, a tree, or in the ground. But we're all out there, 3 teams, to see what we might be able to uncover on this beautiful morning in the Sabi Sands, Djuma, WildEarth. Wasn't that fantastic? So let's go to James while we carry on our search for these lions.
Look at that. What a beautiful shot there of a female duiker with her little unicorn tuft of hair. Isn't that beautiful? Is her trying to smell us? She's not too sure if we're a threat or not. And if you look just under her eye there, I don't know if you managed to see that. Just as she stood still, you can see a slit. There you go. That slit is a preorbital gland. It's a gland that she uses to mark territory, and she kind of sticks grass stalks and that sort of thing up into that gland and leaves her scent on it. And I've always thought that's the most terrifying way to have to mark your territory, because of course you risk the chance of spiking your eye out if you're not very careful. That duiker has managed to be careful enough and not spike her eye out. Lots of birds calling here. There's some hornbills up top there, and hornbills, of course, love to wait for the first rays of the sun on the top of a dead tree. It's their favorite thing to do at this time of the morning. So we've got some red-billed hornbills for you there, Aaron. Number 4 on your list. Oh, there's a lot going on here. If you were sitting here with some binoculars, which of course you are not, you'd be able to see probably quite a few more. To the left of that, of the hornbills, there are some starlings doing likewise, waiting for the first rays of the sun to peep up over the eastern horizon and catch them as they sit in the unshaded boughs of that dead knobthorn tree. So you can have Cape Glossy starling for that one, Aaron. Number 5. And then calling around here, we've got southern black tits. Brian, I don't know if you can see any of the birds in these 2 trees off to the right-hand side there. There's some southern black tits. There's an ashy grey flycatcher calling, going... Oh, some... There they are. Red-faced mouse birds. You look at those. I'm going to keep just scanning these trees for others. There's a whole bird party here. Now, a bird party is what we call a group of birds that have come together because there's some kind of flush of probably insects for them to eat, and they're often indicated by the presence of the southern black tit. They often kind of are the, I don't know, the party liaison, if you like. I can see also a chin spot batis, but I don't think we're going to see that. And when you see their tails like that in amongst a thick bush like this, it does make you wonder why on earth they have evolved to have tails like that. I think that's wonderful. So they're sometimes communal breeders and sometimes not. And I don't think they're breeded this time of the year. Normally they're monogamous, but sometimes they look at them warming up like that. They're gathering like that to stay warm. I've never seen that before. That's absolutely unbelievable. A ball of mouse birds, yes. Isn't that cool? So they've gathered together. You can see them all holding on for dear life onto that little branch, trying to push together. Everyone wants to get to the middle of the group so that they can be the warmest. And we are, of course, on twin dams, about to hit the twin dams themselves. And this is the coldest part of the reserve, because in winter, of course, this is the lowest section. And it is probably 5 degrees colder down here than it is up near quarantine clearings. This is absolutely fantastic. Look at them all, they're all now happy. I don't know if any of you have ever watched that BBC production Planet Earth, but on the first episode, I think it is, they show the king penguin or the emperor penguin of Antarctica in the middle of winter doing precisely what these birds are doing. Obviously, the temperature is exponentially lower than it is here, but they all stand around in this huge group trying to stay warm, shifting, so that they're never on the outside for too long. Isn't that fantastic? How many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think there are 8 or so. 8 red-faced mouse birds. And look at them all puffed up. What? Oh, Brian spotted something else. What was it, Brian?
I've never seen a bird like that.
What colour was it?
Multicolored.
I think it was probably a green-winged petronia. That's fantastic. I saw it just flash off. So let's just keep looking at those mouse birds. I'll find you the picture of the bird that Brian saw. I was unsighted because those things are obviously behind us. Retrieve my field guide in amongst my bits and pieces. Petronia, Petronia, Petronia. I think that's just wonderful. Now you can hear the chin spot batter starting. And all the doves, as the sun hits them, they start to call. Green-winged Pytilia, sorry, not Petronia. Wonderful. Hello, Kyle. You say, are red-faced mouse birds related to the North American cardinal? Not very closely, as far as I'm aware. As far as I'm aware, Kyle, the cardinal occurs in a family of its own, and I don't think that there are any representatives here in the New World. And I think a cardinal, if I remember my view of the one cardinal I've seen in North Carolina, I think that they are, I mean, they look a little bit more like crested barbets to me. I don't think that they're fruit eaters. Are they not more insect-eating birds? But I don't think that they're in the same family. I know exactly what you mean there. There is a kind of resemblance there. Here is the green-winged Pytilia that was seen by Brian. It used to be called a Melba finch, and it's the kind of bird that everybody really wants to see because it is so many lovely colours.
It's outrageous.
It is outrageously coloured. But unfortunately, it was just behind there. Kyle, if you can send back maybe an answer as to which family the cardinal belongs to. The mouse bird belongs to the family 264. It belongs to the family Collidae. And I don't think, you know, they're the only members of the family here, the 3 mouse bird species that we get. The speckled, white-backed and red-faced mouse birds. All righty, Brian. That was the best mouse bird sighting I've ever had. Yes. Let us press on down the road and see what is waiting for us at Twin Dams, other than the rising sun. What an incredible sighting. Penguin mouse birds. Oh, sorry, there's another bird. On the dead tree there, it's a woodpecker. Looks like a little cardinal woodpecker sticking on the most sticky outy bit of that. Can you see it there? There. Zoom in on that stick that you've got there in the middle of the frame. That's it. Well spotted. Little cardinal woodpecker. There you go, Aaron. I think you should be up to number 10 by now. Just digging around. That's a dead tree, which means there'll be lots of beetle grubs and other insects living under the wood, maybe some termites even. And that woodpecker will use its stout tail to brace itself against the tree and then bash its beak in amongst the little cracks that occur in the dead bark. And they've also got a tongue, probably twice the length of its, I think it's a she, twice the length of her head. And so she sticks that tongue out of her little beak into the holes that she's drilled. And it's sticky, and that pulls out the grubs and termites that she wants to eat. Isn't that fantastic? cardinal woodpecker. And they don't make that loud tapping sound. You sometimes hear them going tick, 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 but they don't make that da 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 that the bearded woodpecker makes. Cool. Lots of birds today. Not many mammals, but that's okay. There's the sun. All right, let's head across to the bushwalk and the Mystic Farmer, and we'll continue towards Twin Dams.
James referring to me as the Mystic Farmer. I don't quite know whether I should take that as an insult or not. But I hear you were looking at a cardinal woodpecker. Awesome. The smallest woodpecker that we found out here, I'm sure, as James has been telling you. We, on the other hand, are not looking for something small. We're looking for something very big. We're looking for the male lion that seems to have drunk at the Djuma Dam last night, at the pan, and then crossed through the drainage line, and we are now on Mvubu Road. But we are heading in a northerly direction. The last time we had tracks was on this road. This is Mvubu Road, going north towards Buffelshoek. So what I think we're going to be doing is, this is very hard. If Genre will just show you what the substrate looks like, you can see that it's very difficult to pick up tracks here. Contrary to James's belief that I'm somehow mystic, this eludes my powers, my psychic powers, to deduce where this male lion was. Can't see any tracks over here. In actual fact, even if I try and leave a track, as you can see, I'm not making hardly any indentation on this. This is just dried clay, and it's good. What we're going to do is, if you have a look up the road, you will see that as we're busy scanning ahead of us, which is important, you can't get stuck in tracking, looking at just your feet. You have to look up. You can quite easily walk past what you're looking for. And we're looking for some sandy patches. So I can see that there's a sandy patch up at the front over there. We may be able to find some tracks of this male lion over there. So while I get there, we're going to be walking and scanning left to right and left to right. Let's carry on going and see if we can pick up these tracks. Male lions are funny things. They tend to walk in zigs and zags. They'll walk in a direction for a certain amount of time, and then they stop, and then they turn and they walk almost perpendicular to that particular line. And they can do a full circle. They can also crisscross through their territory. And it's only really when a male, careful this big hole here, Genre almost fell in this wallow, everyone. It would have been very funny. I was debating whether I should tell him about it or not. But it's a bit deep. I was feeling bad. So they can crisscross through their territory, and that zigging and zagging motion that they do is very important for a male lion. It allows his scent to be passed and wafted through his entire territory. As he's brushing past bushes, he's leaving his scent on the bushes. He's roaring that marks territory. He's using urine, he's using his feces, everything just to create a presence in his area. Obviously in the Kruger Park, unlike the Serengeti, unlike certain places in Namibia, male lions in the Kruger have to patrol their areas. Just have a look at the bush over my shoulder here. It doesn't matter if a male lion in the Kruger National Park was the size of an elephant. He wouldn't be standing out to anybody in particular in bush this thick, as opposed to in the Serengeti, which is a big, wide open grass plain with grass waist high. A tall, rangy, big-bodied lion sticks out quite far. And he has less use than to walk all over his territory, and they there use their size, their bulk, and the volume of their roars. Here in the Kruger, these poor male lions are quite stocky, usually quite powerful, and it's because they spend a large proportion of their time zigzagging through their territory. And because of that, and them not being in attendance with their females, quite often they're hunting for themselves. And as you've heard and seen over the last couple of years, these Birmingham boys definitely know how to hunt. They can bring down buffalo like no lions I've ever seen before. Well, let's carry on going. We're at that sandy patch now. And as Stacey has just remarked that, yes, finding a male lion on foot would absolutely be quite interesting. Nerve-wracking. They tend to just jump up, growl at you, and maybe run away. Every now and again, male lions, they do get a little bit for lack of a better word, nervous, and they can stand their ground, but generally speaking what male lions do is they get up and run away and create some distance with you. They are, however, fearsome, let me say, adversaries, if I could put that word to it. They can, and when they are incited, when they are angry, male lions are terrifying. Female lions, you can almost judge what they're going to do. If there's cubs there or there's a kill there, they're going to stand their ground. You are going to be the person that makes some distance. Male lions, you don't quite know what you're going to get. 9 times out of 10, they'll run away from you, but it's that one lion that really gives you the respect for these cats back. Having an angry dog that weighs, let's say, 400 pounds running at you with no gate is around about what it feels like to get charged by a lion. So imagine the angriest dog that's ever charged you through a gate. Double their size, maybe triple their size, and take away the gate, and then you'll know how it feels to stand down a male lion's charge. Definitely scary. Well, I can tell you that this male lion hasn't come down this road, which means that he's turned off somewhere here. He may have circled back, gone to the Galago Pan, and then circled back towards his brothers, which are in this direction here. Or he could have carried on patrolling into this area here. I'm going to take a guess, it's a 50-50 guess at the moment. I'm going to take a guess that he turned off and has walked back towards his brothers. But I'm going to use a little bit of intuition, as Brent calls it, his luck. And I think I'm going to go and check Buffalo's Hook cut line to see if they didn't go north, so we don't waste too much time looking on these game paths here for something that doesn't exist. Susan has asked me something, noticing that I have some ankle protectors on. These are new ankle protectors for those of you who have been watching the show for a while. I bought them on the weekend. And to answer your question, Susan, no, they're not there to protect me from snake bite at all. They're there to protect me from grass seeds, believe it or not. As terrifying as what grass seeds sound. A lot of the grass here have an awn on them, and it's a little spike with it's almost a circular drill bit. And what the spike does, it's actually supposed to help the plant or the grass's seed drill into the ground and plant itself. But when they get stuck in your socks, they drill through your socks and into your foot and leave a blistering hole there. And I have these ankle protectors on specifically for that. I'm less afraid of snakes, believe it or not, than I am of a grass seed. As weird as it sounds. Excuse the state of my shoes. It's terrible that they aren't polished. Jandre looking at me with much fun in his eyes. A sparkle. One thing that is quite interesting, and something that we haven't seen in the pan for a long time, is the fact that there's still that hippo that's walking around here. There's hippo tracks on the floor. I'm going to see if I can outline a toe for you here. This here is the toe of a hippo. There's another toe here, another toe here, and there'll be another toe here somewhere in the dust, the back of the foot being here. And this hippo has walked this way, down this road, and what's quite funny is that then he's not living in that pan. And I think it's because the game capture fence at Sydney's has been lifted, and I think this hippo, although he knows about this pan and he's utilizing these seepline areas for grass, he's walking all the way back to Sydney's every day to go and sleep there with his friends. Hippo being naturally gregarious. And talking about a gregarious hippo, although not quite as large, Sam has got something that he wants to share with you. We'll catch up later.
Welcome back, everyone, to Sabi Sand. As you can see, we've got James ahead of us over here. There he is. We are just behind him. So we've been tracking a lion for the last few minutes. So I was just looking to the side of the road there to see if I could find any of those lion tracks. So James is going off to Cheetah Plains, and I'm going to make my way through to Twin Dams, up Mumba Road, and then through to Buffalo's Hook to see potentially have the male lions got together with Kabumas? Maybe they have. I think they could be crossed over at the Full Suit Reserve. So we're going to try our very best to see if we can locate on those lions. But there he is, getting some dust in my face from James. It's always the best. We're off to go and see if we can find some lions. So we heard them roaring all night last night. James can see something, spot something. It's going a little bit quicker, as you can see. There he goes. So we're going to leave this main access road because it's not very nice when you're trying to track something and there's lots of cars. So let's go somewhere secretive where we might be able to find something a little bit different this morning. Let's take a loop around here. Lisa D says that she would like to see some hyena this morning. Lisa D, we were going to go and make our way through to the hyena den, but we knew the lions were on the property last night, so we just wanted to make sure this morning that the lions had either crossed or were still here. So Lisa D, the hyenas are still on the other side of the property, but I will be on drive this evening, and I'll most definitely go towards there this evening, just as I think they'll start to become inactive this morning. They're generally active in the mornings between 6 and 7, and then they become quite inactive when they sit inside the mound. What would be nice this morning, and there's a really big tree in our way here. You see what the elephants can do. Such strong, powerful animals. That's a nice big tree in the way in our morning, and it's not very nice when you install your car. Okay, let's head round here. It's incredible how powerful elephants can be. It's quite remarkable. So as I said, the property is very, very silent today. This area is silent purely because those lions were all over the show. 3 or 4 of them, and then you also had the lionesses at Arethusa and the lioness just at Triffles. So we were dominated by lions last night. So that will make tracking the leopard a little bit harder, a bit more exciting, more of a challenge. It's always accepted. And this is one of my favorite parts of Djuma to come to. Not only are there beautiful trees, like this tree that we have in front of us, which is a jackberry. The Nami is asking, where is Elvis the Ellie? So, I'm just going to go into diff lock. And now I can drive through the thick drainage line. Where's Elvis the Ellie? You would like to know. Well, I was actually modifying Elvis the Ellie this last night to make him look a little bit better, try and give him a new trunk, not a new trunk, and give him a tusk. And then I forgot him in my room civilly while I was trying to do all the different things on the vehicle. And then I took him last night when I was fixing him. As you noticed, I wasn't on the vehicle, and I left him on Rusty. And I just left, because I like traveling, and Rusty allows us to travel, so towards the plains. So James is off to the plains with Elvis the Ellie this morning. I hope Elvis will give him a little bit of luck, as he always brings myself and Dave a bit of luck. I do miss Elvis though. He does bring a lot of inspiration. He will definitely be out with me this afternoon, I'll tell you that. Isn't this beautiful though, the drainage line? Just imagine a leopard lying in one of these trees along here. And that's probably where we would find the leopard this morning, on the very, very tops of trees, hiding from the sound and the dominance of the male lion. Potentially, they could be anywhere around here. There's a number of elephant tracks. So some of the main trees that we get down in the drainage lines are leadwoods, knobthorns, and leadwoods, knobthorns, and jackalberries. What I was reading last night is the balanites tree, which we'll go and have a look at just now, has an oil in its seed pod that in the early days, when it got really, really dark, they used to use it as a torch. So they used to use that oil from the seed pod and then light it, and then they would walk around with a light, with a little light torch, which is incredible to think what life must have been like when you were living in these areas in the early days of man, and how the trees became not only your friend, inspiration, but an important resource to live by. From wood, so the knobthorn, which is this tree here, was used for many, many different things, such as building all types of tools and that sort of things. And then the zebra wood, which is the hardest wood out here, was used to build and make some tools to go hunting with. So everything was used out here to benefit us. But let's listen to see if we can find any birds that might be lurking around this area. There's a beautiful jackalberry tree. Wow. As it sits on the riverbank. Okay, one day I'm just going to look up one of these jackalberries and their leopard is going to look down on myself and the cameraman. Okay, we're coming around the corner. Let's see what we might be able to find. Nice open drainage line is what we found. And what you'll also find in these thickets are timbuti trees. Timbuti thickets are also quite common around these areas. And timbuti have that substance, that kind of latex, milky substance that is used for many different animals like to come and rub their horns, their bosses on, like, for example, the African buffalo come and rub its boss on it to try and get rid of all the parasites that might be on it. So let's see if we can find a timbuti whilst we track a male lion down. Okay, we're coming around another bend. So our signal's not doing so well, so we're going to carry on through here to see what we might be able to find. Let's go and see how Steph's doing.
So standing here, off to our, well, in front of us really was where we were standing and listening to it, but off from our right hand side and joining the road in front of us. As we pan back, you'll see that there's some scuff marks and a lot of dung on the road. A buffalo herd has come past here during the night, and from what we can hear, it sounds like the lion has caught up with the buffalo. So we've sort of been hightailing it down the road. We're still approaching Buffelshoek cut line. It sounds like it's on the northern side of the cut line, unfortunately, but you never know. Sound travels very differently in the bush over here. So we've been quite careful. We've now hit this thick bush. Jean and I have slowed down. And what we're trying to do is we're just trying to scan ahead of us. The noise has stopped. It sounded like, in my opinion, if I can visualize for you, running herd of buffalo, lots of panic, lion jumping onto a buffalo, buffalo struggling, giving that bellow, that low that they give, and then lion sounding like they're growling, almost like they're busy tussling over something. But that's what we're hearing from us. So quite exciting. It's we're in two minds. Do you approach and see what's going on? Do you hold back and listen some more? We don't quite know what direction the buffalo are running in, but exciting nevertheless. My current idea is just to approach a little bit more cautiously than try and run in there. I think if we could hear the kill, if we could hear the lions fighting over a kill, I'd approach a bit faster. But for now, sounds like they're still hunting. Not much is going on. Let's carry on down the road carefully and see what we can hear or see. Lots of buffalo have walked down here. I don't quite know. It's not a big herd. I would judge it probably less than 100. We have got some oxpeckers calling from in front of us. It's always a sign of some life. Oxpeckers obviously associated to ticks. Ticks live on animals, predominantly your even-toed ungulates. So scanning left to right. You're taught to scan in the bush far, middle, close. And that's what I'm busy doing at the moment. It's just scanning, listening carefully. Just caught a faint sound. Faint sound to our left-hand side, sort of left front in this area here. Sounds like a, there we go. Tough to say what it is. Definitely something large. Let's get a bit closer and go see. It seems to be coming from round about the same place we heard the other noises coming from. We're now coming to a depression in front of us here. Going past the termite mound. Buffalo herd doesn't look like it came past here right now. This is probably where they came yesterday afternoon. The tracks are not that fresh, but what buffalo do is they sleep at night time, and that gives lion a chance to catch up. Buffalo almost corral at night. Eldest, most experienced bulls on the outside, then females, and then calves in the middle. And they'll lie there to protect one another. I'm starting to getting the first flies. There's no buffalo close by. There we go. I look a bit like a retard with my hand cupped on my ear. It gives me this very big Mickey Mouse impression, but it gives me kudu ears, takes my substantial ears and increases surface area, and that allows me to hear. Alright, let's go forward a little bit. So only a few buffalo came this side. The majority of the herd looked like they went off in this direction here, which is right for the sound that we're hearing at the moment, going off in this direction. I don't have any lion tracks yet. We've got some buffalo tracks that have crossed here. Let me show you what they look like. Yeah. That's buffalo that have walked across here. But wind has already blown over this track. Hearing these noises all the time, it's crazy. regular noise that? I don't know if you can pick it up. Andre says you probably could. It doesn't sound like part of their interaction that we're hearing at the moment, I'll be honest. That sounds like something that we'll go and investigate, but it's not part of this. Let's carry on the top here and see where the rest of these buffalo have crossed over. While we're in it, I'll just quickly explain to Dawn what a drainage line is. Dawn, a drainage line is exactly what we're standing in now. It's a depression created by water downslope where gravity has started to coalesce little streamlets from basically from when it rains. So you get sheet flow. What happens is it rains, rain falls down in a sheet. Gravity and aspect will force a lot of these little streamlets together, and you'll get a little drainage line forming, and that's what we got now. This is this depression that we're in at the moment. It's a way that water runs away from a catchment area or a piece of high ground. But it's not a river, it's not something that is permanent at all. Alright, these buffalo, I have no doubt, crossed through here. We're going to start seeing some of their tracks here. Here we go. You can see where the sand has been churned up by their hooves here. So they've crossed here, and that's an unfortunate thing, because it sounds like this interaction that we're hearing is happening on the northern side of Buffelshoek Cutland. I don't hear anything here. We definitely can't hear any more interaction. So if the lion have been chasing these buffalo, they've chased them now out of where we first heard them, so they haven't caught anything here. But while myself and Jandre are going to scout the area here on the Cutland quickly, I'm going to send you back to Sam for an update with him.
We are just easing onto Cheetah Plains here, everybody, and trying to go past this very large but very skittish group of kudu. And they're a beautiful group. There are about 4 or 5 adult females and a couple of young ones. There they are, just peeking out the bush at us. And they, of course, have now taken sight of the enormous figure of Brian Joubert on the back of the car. And they are very... Sorry, I know you can't really hear me, but I am talking very quietly indeed in order to not startle these chaps. They're so close to us, and they normally just move off, you know, so I don't want to make them startled at all. Fine, I'm going to sneak a little bit further forward. They don't like noise or sudden movement. They don't know what we're doing. Let me sneak a little bit further forward. The 3 older ones here in front of us, they seem to be a little bit less startled, but they're very nervous, very, very nervy. Aren't they magnificent? So this is pretty, I mean, compared with something like a white-tailed deer, they're probably about 1.5 times the size. So they're large animals, and the females probably weigh in at just over 400 pounds. So I mean, they're pretty substantial. And they're just starting to warm up, as are we. We've just come on to Cheetah Plains. We're not quite on Cheetah Plains. You're actually looking at a Chitwa kudu there. We're on the sort of driveway between Chitwa and Nkoro, heading towards Cheetah Plains. And you can see how much the light has changed since we began our little safari. It's now turning into that much brighter part of the dawn. Hello, Joey, Monkey Man in in Australia. I'm not insulting Joey, everyone. He's actually called himself Monkey Man. You want me to find something that Sam found here the other day, but I'm afraid I can't hear exactly what that was. I'm going to ask Kirsten to say that again. Oh, the reedbuck. Oh, that would be so exciting. Yes, I've seen a reedbuck a few times in the Sabi Sands, never up this far north. And Sam had an incredible sighting, everybody, of a rare antelope called a reedbuck. And, well, I mean, it's possible that we could see it again, yes, in those clearings. That's certainly where we're heading. But I think it's unlikely, but maybe we'll be lucky. Southern reedbuck. And it's just a different kind of antelope. Not endangered at all, but just very unusual for this area. Marvellous. You can hear that bird going quack, quack, quack. That is the fork-tailed drongo. And it will be following the kudu. Yeah, they're all coming out of the bush now. This large herd is just easing its way out of the bush. I want to see what they're eating. I think this is quite interesting. I think they're eating this fairly unpalatable bush called Strychnos madagascarensis. And Strychnos madagascarensis is called Strychnos, of course, because the seeds contain strychnine, which is a dreadful poison. Very little of it, but they do contain it, and I think it taints the leaves. And so not much other than elephants will eat the leaves of Strychnos madagascarensis. I'm just trying to see what these kudu are having a go at. Now they've got used to us, so they're walking forward towards us. They're eating, you know what they're eating is that monkey pod. They're eating the monkey pod senna with the yellow flowers. And they're actually eating the flowers too. I must be careful. There are a number of mantis and spider species that have adapted to living purely in amongst those yellow flowers. What a wonderful shot. And so I think they're probably getting quite a lot of extra protein as they eat the senna trees. This is incredible. Everyone, this really is unusual to be able to watch kudu like this. Just going to ease forward again. They seem to be getting used to us, hey Brian?
Yeah.
This one here. Oh, she didn't like that when I pointed at her. Definitely selecting for the flowers as well as the leaves. Excuse me. And they are absolutely getting used to us. Now, what we often see is kudu and waterbuck and buffalo chewing the cud. But what I would like you to notice here is how little they chew before they swallow. So this is why they re-chew their food. If you watch that kudu eating, it's kind of a brief chew and then a swallow and then another mouthful. Brief chew, swallow, another mouthful. And they will then go and lie down somewhere and re-chew the cud. And you can see how the first pass, as it were, the kind of gathering, they don't do much chewing at all. And I imagine this feeding session will go on for about an hour, and the cud chewing will probably go on for about 3 times that. Let's sneak forward again. That's so cool. What a great shot. The rest of them up ahead. We'll keep going forward. They're just so much more confiding when there isn't a roaring engine going past them. Cool, Brian. There's a little one behind her. She looks a little bit startled. Now she's just tilting her head there to get an idea of distance, to confirm the distance and we are from her, and also to get a whiff, a smell of Brian's very fine aftershave. Huge ears, just like satellite dishes, twisting backwards and forwards all the time, listening for the telltale crack of a twig, perhaps as a lion comes stalking through the bush. It's no coincidence, of course, that the predators have got such soft pads underneath their feet. A lot of that has to do with helping them move through the bush in a stealthy manner, and it's incredible how careful they are where they put their feet, avoiding crunchy leaves and broken twigs. And of course, when your prey have got ears like this, you really have to be super, super quiet. And Dina, you say you love the inside of their ears. I do too. I think it's really amazing. I wonder why they're coloured like that. I suspect it's probably, well, I don't know if there's any real reason for it, but they are fascinating. Now, interestingly, just talking about these kudu and talking about hunting them and the animals that hunt them, of course, lions are the major predators of kudu out here, maybe spotted hyena as well. But human beings do eat kudus, and there's a wonderful film that if you ever get the chance you should watch called The Great Dance. And in The Great Dance, it's about a bushman hunter who hunts a kudu. And quite unlike a cat, where the cats will rely on this incredible stealth that they have, this ability to move in almost complete silence, the human being that hunts down a kudu runs it until it cannot run anymore. So a man with a 5-litre or 1-gallon bottle of water with him runs a kudu down in the middle of the Kalahari Desert, and I think he runs about 30 kilometers. That's about 22 miles. He runs this kudu down until the kudu can no longer move. And the human being has adapted to move like that. We're incredible at endurance sports and at endurance feats, where none of the animals out here are able to do the same. And so although we cannot move anything like as quietly as the stalking predators out here, our ability to chase down prey, believe it or not, is greater than that of even a wild dog or a hyena. Righty, on that note, let's head across to Sam. He, of course, ran to Cape Town very recently, and he really did. And he's got an elephant to show you.
So, I've just been told that you've had the most incredible sighting of a kudu. Was it a male or female? I know males have the most spectacular looking horns. It was a female. That's very, very cool. But what we have for you right now is something a little larger, a little bigger, and it is an elephant. Beautiful looking elephant. Look at that trunk, as we can see quite clearly over there. So we've moved off from the western side of our property all the way now to the eastern side to have a look and see what we can find here. And we've come across some beautiful elephants, and the whole breeding herd is now kind of in the thickets here. And this is the last of the elephants. And we had the most magnificent sighting of them yesterday. It was incredible to see elephants that were just fighting against each other, running. And it was me and Dave yesterday, and we got quite nervous because they were running. I'd never seen elephants run like that in my life, and I was just picturing, you know, what if you just in that line of sight and that elephant's running at you? So they are really, really big animals, and you have to be very careful when you're out in the bush and they're displaying aggression with one another. You have to just be quite careful, but it was fascinating to watch the way in which they interacted with each other. in that social environment. And since like learning a little bit more and seeing them in practice out here in the bush, I went back and I learned something truly interesting about how we can determine the size of the elephant. And I read something that you can determine the size by timesing the footprint, the hind foot of this elephant here. You take that print and you times it by 5.5, and that'll help you get the shoulder height of the elephant. Isn't that interesting? Any print you find that's the hind foot of an elephant, you multiply that size of it by 5.5, the whole diameter. So measure the diameter and then times that diameter by 5.5, and you'll have the general size of that elephant. But what is so significant about the elephants is its ears. How big are those ears? They almost look like a small little Africa. If you have a look at the map of Africa, the ears look a little bit like Africa. And they flap those ears to try and cool themselves down, especially in the hot days. So just in a few months' time, we'll be in the hot conditions. Those ears will provide a lot of cooling. So just while I was chatting that, I just got a message in my ear. So if I sounded quite slow in delivering that last bit of information, that's because I just found out that Thomas, my twin brother, is here. Hello, Thomas. Welcome to Safari Live. I'm glad that you enjoying this elephant in front of us right now. It's quite exciting that I can have a conversation with you while I am looking at elephants, and that's what makes this show so cool. So, hello, Tom, my brother Tom, who looks like me in most ways, but I am a little bit different to you. Hope you're doing well this morning. I know you're off to work. I don't know, are you going off to the city? Are you in your taxi now, or what's cracking? Are you in the city centre? Anyway, much love. I hope that I can bring some ecology into your business side of life. I know that you're running a business that is based on education and ecology and learning about how we can conserve species, as well as bring education that is vital to the future, for our future generations. So big up Tom Chef. And the more that we can have you on the show, the cooler, the better for me, because I miss you very much. But let's go back to the elephants, because that's what this show is about. And have a look at how beautiful that elephant is. Book Diva would like to know when elephants sleep. Well, Book Diva, it's a good question. You know, elephants generally sleep around 22, well, not sleep, they eat and browse, as you can see this elephant doing over here with its dexterous trunk, is they will browse for around 22 hours a day, and they sleep standing a lot of the time. You don't often see them lying down when they sleep. But if you see elephants that are lying down, it is a huge privilege to see that. I think I've seen it a couple times, but that's just mainly with the youngsters. I'm still looking forward to a day where I come across elephants all lying down together. It would be just such a phenomenal sight to see. So that is the African elephant, part of the Elephantidae. And it is said that the heaviest reliable weighed tusk is approximately 102.3 kilograms to 107.3. So I'm not sure what that is in the way in which you distinguish mass in America, but 102 kilograms is very, very heavy. I mean, I weigh around 73, 74, so you can just imagine the average, well, not the average, the heaviest one that's been weighed can get up to that, and that is remarkable. Truly beautiful elephant. Let's go a little bit closer and see what if there's any other elephants that might be lurking around here. We're not far away from the area where we saw those elephants that were quite enraged yesterday. So we're still keeping an eye out for those. Listen to the sound when you stop now. Listen to the sound of this elephant eating and breaking the branches. Really, truly beautiful. There we go. Now we've got a beautiful visual of this elephant, and it looks like it is a male. It's a male elephant. You tell that by the shape of its head. And of course the genitalia will give it away. But the male elephants are probably about 1.3 times as tall as the females. Comes the elephant. I'm just going to keep my voice down so that you can hear the different sounds. Notice how dexterous that trunk is and how agile and movable it is to collect all the different things. He was browsing and now he is grazing. So they're both browsers and grazers. Jean, thank you for that comment. You're noticing the comments on how the elephant's ear looks a little bit like Africa, and then you commented around how the Asian elephants, or the Indian elephant rather, their ears look quite similar to that of India. I haven't noticed that before, but I'll have a look again, Jean. But that's very cool, huh? Myself and Dave love to see elephants when we go out. Joey from Australia would like to know, what is the biggest elephant that I've ever come across? Well, Joey from Australia, I have experienced an elephant probably about a week ago. I think I was with Dave. And I wasn't with Dave, I was with someone else. I can't remember who, but we came round a thicket and I honestly could have walked underneath him. He was a big, big bull, and we were in the deep, deep thickets, and he was just moving towards me, and it was quite a feeling to have an elephant of that kind of, I don't know, it got my heart racing, the size of that elephant. You know, when you genuinely feel your heart just go a little bit quicker when you experience something, you know, something out of this. I can't really explain that feeling, but it was an amazing feeling to be around such a huge elephant. And someone was asking questions the other day around the eyelashes of an elephant and what role can eyelashes play. Well, if you ever look there, they've got quite significant eyelashes there, and that'll protect the eye from any sort of dust or leaves that try to get in there. So our eyelashes definitely play an important purpose towards keeping our eyes a little bit cleaner. But how cool is this to be so close to this male elephant? How he's wrapped that branch with his trunk, broken it off, and is now feeding himself. incredible to hear those sounds. You can quite clearly hear the sound of some of the birds as he breaks these branches around here. The black-headed oriole in the distance there. Have a look at this. He's now breaking it with his foot. See, he's actually rolling the leaves off. So watch how he eats it. He rolls it in his mouth, collects all the leaves off that branch. So it's called mulling. The deer's mull. There we go, that's incredible to see that. There we go. It's so nice to have this soft morning light. With his ears just waving there. Saying hello to everyone. It's quite interesting. You often find some elephants that have holes in their ears. I've often wondered why or how they get those holes. So you can't see the hole that's in his ear right now. It's on the other side of his head. I think that might be because of some of the thorns that he comes across during his foraging. He's just been so relaxed with us. So we're going to sit with this elephant for a bit longer and see if he gets a bit closer. And while we do that, let's go head off to James, who's with one of the other big five.
There are some buffalo in here, believe it or not, everyone, but they've just managed to disappear. And the interesting thing about them is that I'm not sure the extent of this herd or why there are as few of them as there seem to be here. A herd of buffalo, of course, normally is about at least 100 strong in this area. And I think there are not that many here. And Brian was just saying a number of them seem to have fairly furry horns on top, weren't you, Brian? Here's a middle parting.
Yes.
An old but a classic, you said.
Yes, a classic.
As opposed to outdated.
A classic hairdo from the 90s.
Yes. Although I'm not sure that the 90s produced anything classic, really.
No.
No. Well, I'm afraid Buffalo Bottoms is what we've brought you to see here at Cheetah Plains. We haven't hit the actual plains yet, so we'll go out into them fairly soon and see if we can't find something other than Buffalo Bottoms, won't we, Brian? Yes. There are two very nice Buffalo Bottoms. And a third. Brilliant. We're heading off down south-ish and then slightly east, and there is a waterhole southeast of here, so maybe they're going to pop out there on that waterhole clearing. Well, there we are then. There's nothing on the radio going on here. All right, while we go onto the clearing, let's go across and find out what Steph has found on foot.
Well, welcome back to us. And while Jandra and I have been walking away from that area where we heard the buffalo and the lion potentially interacting, we stumbled across this beautiful example of a seep line. Now, this is in relation to the question that I answered a little bit earlier from Dawn about drainage lines. This is where the drainage lines always start. This is a seep line, and by that I mean it's a type of spring. But rather than a spring that bubbles up from a single source out of a crack in a rock or out of a hole in the ground, this is almost like a sponge that leaks water out of this particular area. And you can see where animals have been lying in these depressions. This is where the most water comes out. So water that's falling over the countryside here will seep into the ground, into the sandy substrate, which is the majority of the soils here, but will eventually hit a clay layer. When it hits this clay layer, through gravity, it starts to move along the clay layer downhill, and it comes out of the ground in these seep line areas. And from these seep line areas, the water weeps, and it basically follows a downward trend into a drainage line. So where we are now is the seep line, but where you are looking now, and you can see the area start to form basically a tiny little valley or a gully. That is the drainage line. And that drains the water from the seep, drains it towards a bigger drainage line, and eventually it will reach a river, which is either permanent or seasonal. And those rivers join together to form bigger rivers, and then eventually go into the sea. I'm just trying to think now in my mind where this would end up. So the journey from here would be the cloud to the sand to the seep line to this little drainage line, the drainage line to the, what's this drainage line called, this big one that comes through here? The Mulwati, yes. The Mulwati into the Nwati Tsonso. I know it sounds pretty weird, I can't say it myself, but the Nwati Tsonso. The Nwati Tsonso River flows into the Sabi River, and the Sabi River flows into the Indian Ocean through Mozambique. That is where this water will end up, is in the Indian Ocean. And that current will carry the water down towards Cape Town, and will eventually make a big loop down the bottom of the southern Indian Ocean and back up around about Australia, somewhere around there on the other side of the Indian Ocean. That is where the water that comes here, its journey will be before it gets sucked up in a cloud and then washed out onto another sandy soil somewhere. All right, let's carry on going through this drainage line and see what we can see. We are at the moment not looking for anything particular, we're just looking for interesting points. And the reason for that is that, Jean-Andre just getting a bit stuck up in the branches there, is that we're looking for that, well actually we are looking for something. We're looking for signs of that male lion that we had around Vuyatela Dam a little bit earlier this morning. He doesn't seem to have gone north, I can say that. But he seems to have crossed out on this side. Taxon confirmed he didn't cross north, and now what we're doing is we are looking on the western edge of the DRC where we stay, and of quarantine, to see if he hasn't gone back towards where we saw him last night. But without you having to follow the back of my shiny bald head, and while we're looking for some tracks, we are going to link away, and we'll catch up with you in a little bit.
Good to hear from Steph around what is happening with those lines. So we've gone from a buffalo to a lion and back to the elephant, who is now just a little bit further away from us, but it's nice to see him in the distance as he collects some of the foliage on top of the trees there. And we've seen a bird that's been flying around it, which is the fork-tailed drongo. So I think Dave will write that on his bird list, as well as many other people. As soon as we catch visual of that beautiful bird, they will collect some of the insects around where the elephant is feeding. Hopefully they'll come back into shot. These are very, very calm, relaxed bull elephants. And he seems to be moving. We've heard quite a few trumpets of the elephants. So there is some trumpeting coming from another direction. So we're going to listen and see what he gets up to here, and then carry on. But in the time being, let's go and look at a bird of prey with James.
Now, We mentioned earlier, of course, the fact that the brown eagle, if you see a brown eagle, a true eagle here, you know that it's a tawny eagle at this time of the year because, of course, they are the only brown eagles that live here. This, of course, is a possibly confusing species that you're looking at now. And Aaron in New Zealand, a good one for your new bird list, that is a brown snake eagle. Not a true eagle like the tawny, but at this distance you can't see whether that thing is feathered down to its knees or not. We're sitting, Brian, probably 400 meters or 300 meters from it, 900 to 1,000 feet from this bird. And while Brian's super zooming camera is able to get a good picture of it, even my powerful binoculars don't allow me to see its feet. So, what are we looking at? How do I know it's a brown snake eagle? Well, it's got this sort of bulbous head, and I don't know if you can see that, but its head looks a lot more substantial than the head on that of the tawny eagle. So that's the main thing for me. And the other thing, it's just got a generalized sort of shape that makes it look inevitably like a brown snake eagle. So that only comes with experience, but it's that large bulbous head that really gives it away. This is a particularly scraggly looking version of the brown snake eagle, I must say. Has not been to the salon very recently. You can hear how quiet the morning is. We're now on Cheetah Plains, approaching the first of the actual plains. And we were just saying, we were looking into the clearings, and I was just reminding myself that cheetah, of course, are not very seldom going to be walking actually across a clearing. They will normally be found, of course, walking through the fringing thickets on the edge of a clearing, so that should there be some prey for them to eat, they can then burst and chase it across the clearing. So it's always in the fringes of the clearings that you must be looking for cheetahs. Now, Sally, you want to know about how you start a bird list or keep a bird list. Do you download it, or is there some kind of format to it, or do you just make it up? No, you just make it up, Sally. Sam, of course, can probably show you his bird list. His is just a very nice notebook with a pen, and that's how he keeps his bird list. So that's the way to do it. Others, I've kept mine. I mean, I'm not a fastidious keeper of a list, but I just have a field guide like that, and then whenever I see a bird for the first time, I write the name of it, or the place and the date next to the bird's name. But the disadvantage with that is that that book is now outdated, and so I do need to replace it. But of course that's contained all my records in it, so yeah. I don't know what's best. It's all kind of up to you, really. I quite like having it in the actual book, because you can then see what you've seen and where you saw it, and it reminds you of special times of ornithology. Let's just pop up into the clearings here. There's a waterhole. Starting to warm up a bit, isn't it, Brian? Yes. And these are the kinds. So here's a giant clearing off to our left-hand side. That's slight hyperbole. It's not a giant clearing. It is just a clearing. And so if I was looking for cheetah, which I inevitably am, I would be looking in the fringing vegetation here, just to the right-hand side, just seeing if I couldn't see the telltale head popping up from the prone position, looking for things to eat. So I think we often come into these clearings, certainly I still do it, where I drive up onto the clearings and scan the clearings, and if I don't see anything there, I think, well, there's nothing here. And it's not actually where you're going to find most of the predators. It's a very strange sort of light now, because the clouds do seem to be coming up sort of from the east and from the south, but when you do get your eyes caught by the sun, it's very bright, isn't it, Brian? Mm. And I've found that this whole year, that the sun has been brighter than I can ever remember it, especially during the summertime, where it didn't even set in a kind of red or orange or even yellow glow. It set in this kind of, it just stayed white. It was like a light bulb going down over the mountains. Brian, I will be so deeply impressed with myself if I've actually spotted something here. what it is?
No.
It's a tree.
Oh.
Yeah. Wonderful tree. Deeply irksome. Natasha, you're in Ontario, obviously, and you want to know what my favourite sound out here is. Well, other than the sound of Brian beatboxing, of course, which is a rare privilege every so often. Bird song, of course, to me just reminds me of music, and so that's often what I like to hear. And which birds? Well, I mean, I've kind of mentioned him so often, I feel like it's a bit cliched, but the white-browed scrub robin has the most lovely call. We don't get this bird that I'm going to mention next very often here, but it's a bird called the white-browed robin chat. It used to be called the Hugeland's robin. When it's very wet, it will come up here, but it does occur all the way along the Sand River and on the Sabi River to the south of that, and that's got an absolutely stunning call. And it does it with such an incredible rhythm. But otherwise, different times of the year, the sounds, of course, remind me of different things. And one of those sounds would be something like the Diederik's cuckoo, which is a sort of herald of the summertime, and it goes, dee, 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 Diederik's, dee, 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 Diederik's. This is not going to blow your mind. But it is interesting. This is a very big example of what we call a sandpaper bush. And if you just feel this, everybody, just reach up. You hear that?
Mm-hmm.
What does it sound like, Brian?
Sandpaper.
Oh, it does. So what do you think it is, Brian?
Sandpaper bush.
Yes. Well
Yeah.
done. But it is an amazingly rough leaf, and I think it protects it from being eaten, because if you look around here, this tree has been unaffected, but by elephants. Elephants do like to eat the sandpaper bush, obviously, because they've broken it a few times. Wasn't that fascinating, Brian?
Fantastic.
Overwhelming.
Exceptional.
Oh, now, Steph is still on the tracks of those lions. Let's go and find out what his progress is.
All right, we managed to find what we came looking for. Here we have the track of a male lion. I'm going to circle it. And in the middle, you'll find that there's these indentations. Here's some toes, 1, 2, 3, 4 toes. And here's the back of the pad here. If I were to draw it out, it would be there. And that's the middle of the foot. You can see walking in this direction. And how to tell what foot it is? You take your fingers and you put them in the toes. You can see that my hand closely matches that of the toes. If I were to do it with my other hand, not quite. Actually, it does fit quite well. Okay. So this fits much better than my other one does. And so this is the back right foot of a male lion. And you can see how big it is. The front foot, a lot bigger than my hand, or it can be a lot bigger than my hand depending on how soft the sand is. But the sand is relatively hard. Male lions walked over here, walked in this direction, and that's exactly what we came here to find. This, I think, is that male lion that was at the pan last night, came for a drink, and now he's walked in, contrary to the way that we thought he was going to walk, he's actually walked back the way he's come, and he's now going west. And that's exactly what we're going to be following up on for the rest of the morning. Hopefully we can pull these guys out. I haven't heard that they've been found anywhere. Oh, there we go. Just heard something now in the bush. Don't quite know what that is even yet. The bush is filled with these funny noses today. Anyway, let's carry on going. And talking about tracks, James Richard has wanted to know, morning James, if a giant land snail leaves the actual track. It does actually, it leaves a track of slime. And it can sort of flatten out the soil, but you can definitely see a track of slime. And I want to give you an example of how we age tracks here. Here's that male lion again. Slightly bigger track because the sand here was smaller. But there, in the middle of the track, you can see an antlion. Antlions are nocturnal. So what's happened is an antlion has moved into this track, or this male lion stood on the antlion, and he's actually moved the sand out of his trap, and that gives us an indication. This is obviously not now, it was done early evening, which is around about the time that this male lion was walking around. He was walking around last night, probably around about 8, 9 o'clock, and that would have given enough time for this antlion to excavate his pitfall trap inside the track of this lion. Right. A lot of buffalo tracks around at the moment. I have no doubt that these lions were trying to hunt some buffalo and have been looking for these buffalo for most of the evening. These Birmingham boys have got a definite taste for buffalo meat, and I think that a herd like has been walking on this road will just actually be too tempting a treat for them not to want to follow up. Male lions definitely in the Kruger National Park tend to hunt a lot more than what male lions that stay with their prides all the time do. These Birmingham boys will patrol their area, they'll patrol it a lot, and that means that they're away from lionesses who've got hungry cubs to feed or themselves to feed, and male lions can just overpower them and steal their kills. These guys here will steal a lot of kills from lionesses in the area. They will also steal from leopard, and then they will also hunt. A lot of the hunting they do themselves. And 5 big boys like this definitely can overpower a buffalo weighing many, many times more than what they do. And that makes it a lot easier for them to stay healthy and stay nourished. But on that, while Jandre and I decipher this trail, we're going to send you through to Sam.
Okay, so we've just come across another breeding herd of elephants, and we've heard these elephants for quite some time now. They've been making a huge racket. So we were on the other side there, and now we've come across them, and there was one that was trumpeting to the left here, and this one over here has been trumpeting since we arrived. And they've just basically been saying, I'm over here, who are you, what's going on? And they're just young elephants that are boisterous and having some fun, being loud out here just because they can. They know how to use their trunks now, so they're just acting a little bit boisterous, teenage kind of boisterous. So we're just going to let them be, and let's see how they interact with each other. I'll give them the distance they need. From our side, we'll be very, very safe in terms of distance, but have a look at these two. It's really quite interesting, the behavior that they've been having with one another. Fascinating, really. Must be around 8, 9, or 10 years old. There is one elephant here that is so big, so big. It could be the one elephant that we saw the other day. I think I was with Brian or Jandre when we saw that elephant, but he is in the thicket here. We just saw him as we were driving through, and he's just gone past one of the big marula trees. But he is absolutely massive. And so we're just listening and trying to see what's happening here. Let's go a little bit forward. Things have settled down, these elephants, a little bit more. So if we go slowly, show that we're just interested. Want to say hello? Here's a whole, okay. So there's a massive breeding herd that we're about to come to now. So I'm going to go in very, very slowly, show them some respect, distance. What we should observe as we come around is the way in which they behave towards us. And secondly, have a look for the big male that is somewhere in this area. There's one. So we're going to sit with these elephants. They're not going anywhere at the moment. Let's go to James for a quick look at some of the most beautiful looking antelopes out here, the wildebeest.
We've just been watching one of these young wildebeest here trying to suckle, which is a sort of unusual thing, and the mother was having absolutely none of it. Now, the question, of course, is why was the little wildebeest, which is now more than 6 months old, trying to suckle? And I think the answer is probably the fact that they, A, well, probably dislikes milk, really, and B, the grass, I'm not sure, is of the highest quality here at the moment. I think that the lack of rain has certainly made the grass slightly more difficult and slightly less nutritious than it might be. And with these wildebeest, this herd of wildebeest, this great migration of gnus here, streaming majestically across the plains, is in fact on Mala Mala. And I'm just having a look across the way. There is a Mala Mala vehicle there, but I think they've stopped to have coffee. I don't think that they are looking at any cheetah or lions. We are not looking at cheetah or lions either, are we, Brian?
No.
We have scanned these clearings in the minutest of details. I haven't found anything here yet other than, of course, our favourite herd. Well, our second favourite herd of wildebeest, of course. And all on his own, of course, our old friend of Brent's, who shall be reunited with his mate very soon. Just under that bush there is there the lonely and solitary figure of Gnorman the Gnu. All alone. Obviously just in no hurry to be around the children or the wives that he has managed to procure for himself. He does have some company, Brian. I don't know if you can see up to the right-hand side of him. There is a dove sitting above him. Is it a dove? It isn't a dove, you know. If you can, there, just zoom in straight in there, up, there. It is a dove. A ring-necked dove at 1/4 of a mile. And that's his only friend. Okay, well, while we're with this old wildebeest, I'm going to send you back across to Sam, who's got a very young elephant.
So it was great to quickly have a look at the wonderful wildebeest, but we're now back with this fairly large breeding herd of elephants, where we have quite a young elephant, as you can see there. He's been playing with his older brother or sister there, or either a young male or a young female, but he's been so special to watch over the last few seconds. So he's just got here in time.
Sam, you need to move.
Okay. There's elephants that are running in the distance there. Let's just get into a reposition. So I think they were just fighting with one another there. Always, there's those two boisterous young individuals that are still playing with each other and trumpeting. They've been at it with each other since we were driving about 200 meters to the south of us. We heard those two young elephants trumpeting at each other for quite some time now. So we just need to be careful here, just because they have been running. They've been running all the time, but I doubt they would run into our vehicle. But I've never seen elephants run so fast in my life, which is quite, of course, it's just important to be aware, that's all, aware of them. But now they've seemed to relax quite some bits. Very interesting family dynamic here that we've stumbled across. Ken from Iowa said that, is it true that an elephant never forgets? Ken, that's a great little comment you've just said about whether they never forgets. I think they have a very, very good memory, and when something disturbs them, irritates them, influences them, they'll always remember that interaction they had, purely because it's the best form of defense is to remember, you know, what has troubled them in the past. Just saw that really, really young elephant running into the distance there. It's a very fascinating dynamic of elephants this morning. I also, Ken read a story. Jeez, he's running. You can't see him right now, but he's just sprinting. That small little elephant. So, Ken, also, just while we're going to move away from the elephants, because they'll probably head towards Buffelshoek Dam now. So we can watch them drink something at the dam and get into a nice position. But Ken, if you read some of the stories from the Bushmen, they never forget. One of the Bushman stories said that, you know, one of the hunters had to collect some food for the tribe, and we've got a line track. We're gonna have to interrupt that story because we've got some line tracks, some male line tracks that are walking down this road. So let's just follow this a little bit slowly. We know that we've seen lions on the property recently, so we just need to pay attention. Potentially that's what the elephants were making such a noise about earlier. Yeah, Dave, that could be it. The lions were here not so long ago, so maybe we heard them trumpeting at those lions. So let's just pay attention for a bit to see maybe if we can locate on some lions. The tracks are still here. I know Steph has been tracking some on foot. Hold on, we've got another elephant just to the left here, so we're full of elephants this morning. Isn't that another beautiful elephant? We've seen so many elephants this morning. So I said this is a very, very thick block, so we always have to be very careful here. It's a young male. And it seems they have been disturbed overnight from these elephants. These elephants definitely, those lions have definitely caused some havoc out in the bush here. So another beautiful sighting of the elephants. Let's go and see how Steph's doing out in the bush this morning.
For nostalgia's sake, and it was only because Jandra and I were in this sighting all this many months ago, we decided to come and have a walk through the area which we saw the Birminghams in for the first time. From the last Big Cat Week when we first saw them, this was the first time that the Birminghams came out of the Manuleti and were lying up right here where we're standing right now. We're lying up for that whole day, that one fantastic day where we had them in the morning and we had them in the afternoon in the same place. And Jandra and I decided that we'll come and walk around in this place to see, maybe we're lucky and they're lying down in the same place. Maybe they had the same idea that we had. But we were driving around in this area and the lions were lying up in the shade where we're standing right now. They had moved from here to a clump of bushes just a bit further off, probably another 20 or 30 yards in that direction. It's just nice to come through here and see and remember, reminisce on memories that you've had. You know, for all the years that we've been doing these safaris, that I've been walking around the bush, at a time I believe that I could remember almost every sighting that I've had of lions, but I'd say that that was probably a little bit of a lie, an over-exaggeration. I think I retain memories of a lot of different things, but to try and pinpoint something exactly would be very difficult. But this one is particularly easy, mainly because this area is quite familiar to us on foot. It's quite close to where we do walks quite often. Although I must be honest, I haven't walked through this exact patch of bush since we were here with the vehicles all that time ago. But as you can see, quite open. They quite enjoyed having the shade. It was around about, I can't actually remember what month it was in, but it wasn't too hot. It was warm. I remember that day, hey, Jean-Jacques, we were baking a little bit in the sun there. So it must have been around about August or September, somewhere around there when we last saw them. So not quite a year ago, but... And can you imagine what they did in all that time? Since then, they've managed to take over a pride, chase 2 established males out, and haven't quite fathered their first cubs yet, have they? Have they had babies yet? I don't think they've had babies just yet. But very close on the way, I presume. They've been mating with the lionesses quite a lot. It's quite common for lionesses to not withhold estrus, but they go into a sort of pre-estrus, which gives male lions a chance to establish themselves in the area. They don't want to mate with male lions that just constantly change and are constantly being usurped by other males, simply because the new males that come in will just kill their cubs, and it's biologically quite a waste of energy. So they really will put it off for as long as they can, giving all the signs that they're ready for estrus, basically, even going as far as mating with these male lions. But it'll be a while before their bodies start releasing eggs. I know Sam has said that he's pretty sure that there's a lioness out there with cubs. I'm almost certain that the lionesses in this area are definitely pregnant, and time will tell to see which one of us. We're both right, really. It's just a matter of time to see when it's going to happen. But it should be any day now, to be quite honest. And Anna Marie would like to see a centipede, and absolutely, Anna Marie, let me see if I can find one for you right away. The best place to look for centipedes is underneath logs, and luckily we've got a collection of logs right here. So what I'll do is start looking for broad, flat pieces of wood to lift up. And we haven't found a centipede, but I did find you a millipede on my first go, as you can see right there. There's a millipede on our very first try. Oh, and the exoskeleton of a scorpion. Come and have a look here, Jean-Jacques. Scorpions, very similar to spiders, lose or grow too big for their shells, basically their exoskeletons, and what they'll do is secrete an oil between their new skin and their old one, which pushes their old skin out, and then they basically come out of their entire skin. I don't know, Jean-Jacques, if you can see, but this scorpion, you can see, has retracted its body from the tip of its tiny little legs, then right the end of its tail, and climbed out there. Shade of this piece of bark. Why he's done that is because while he's in this process, he's quite vulnerable in actual fact and needs to stay hidden for that process to come on. You can see where he's popped open the lid, that's where he would have been, and he's basically pulled his whole body, pincers, legs, everything out, and left or discarded the rest. That's actually very, very awesome. They're so fragile, these little things, that even me picking it up would actually destroy it, to be quite honest. And so looking at it like that is basically the only thing that we can do. We have got that millipede. That is exactly where millipedes end up the winter. And this millipede has already gone into hibernation. And because of that, I'm just going to turn it straight over again. And we're going to leave that millipede exactly as we found it. But let's carry... Right, we're going to carry on looking for our centipede. And James has got something that he wants to tell you, so we'll keep on looking, and hopefully we get to find you one, Anna Marie.
Now, I thought very strongly about climbing this tree over here, just simply because it looked like such a perfect tree to climb. It is a leadwood, Combretum imberbe, and we're in amongst a whole number of them that sort of spread off to the left-hand side. All the big trees to the left-hand side of your picture are leadwood trees. And they are growing in an area where the soil is suddenly sort of changed colour. And from that sort of burnt out grey-white colour, it's almost completely changed to a much more iron-rich or ferric, could be ferric or ferrous. I actually remember the difference between the two. A ferric or ferrous soil, so iron-rich red soil. And I think consequently big trees like this leadwood, which obviously like this kind of soil, are growing here. And that will be a function of the fact that the underlying geology here has changed, and we're no longer on those sodic plains of Cheetah Plains. We've come up a bit and we're onto the more granite, and there's probably a little bit of gabbro around here as well that's making the soil a bit richer and a bit redder. Right, we're driving along here. I'm showing you trees and soil, of course, because I've yet to see a mammal after we saw those wonderful wildebeest streaming majestically across the plains. With a what?
Squirrel.
Ah, Sam has a squirrel. Let's go and have a look at that.
Have a look at the squirrel that we've just come across here. You can see he's munching on a nut there. And it's so hard to get a good visual of a squirrel, and the squirrel is just sat right next to us and is eating what, I can't quite make out what it's eating. It looks like it's a little old marula nut maybe, but he looks so hungry. Look at him as he chows that, eats that. So he's still there. Ooh, he just did a big leap onto the tree. Much like the bush baby, the squirrels are very, very acrobatic in these trees. There you can still see him eating, munching away on one of the bushes in the distance there. And they'll often come out in the early mornings to collect some of the sunlight, or to get some of the sunlight, to stand in it and warm up a little after a freezing cold night. Not so much freezing. I know I exaggerate when I say it's freezing, but it is slightly cold. Now he's in the thick, he's found some food and he's off into the bush. Also very, very cool sighting. Awesome tree squirrel. So, we are now at Buffelshoek, so let's just bring you back up to date what's been happening. We came into the bush. There were elephants that were going crazy from a distance, from about 2 kilometers. We could hear them. We decided, let's go and drive in that direction to see what has spooked them out. What is going on with these elephants? We sat there. We've watched a few elephants. Some, the older ones, looking a lot more calm, but the younger ones looking very boisterous and loud and trumpeting, and they're smelling us and making a lot of noise, basically. And what Dave and I think has happened this morning is that lions have been influencing their social dynamic. And I don't think some of the youngsters have had a lot of time with those lions. So I think they're feeling a little bit shocked, a little bit of fear within those elephants, within the young ones. But we're now at Buffelshoek Dam. So we're going to come through here. Maybe we can locate one of those lions that we were looking for this morning. I don't think anyone's been here yet this morning, so maybe there has been nothing seen of the lions. We are just going to come here slowly, look in every single direction, and do a little loop of this watering hole to see if something is lying up on the watering hole. If you want to hear the sound of anything. There's a hippo. There's one big hippo in the water there. Get to a position where we can view the hippo better. At the moment there's no sign of any lion up here. I'm just looking for any tracks. Let's get to a position where we can view this wonderful hippo. While we sit with this hippo, I'd love to go back to that story that I was telling a little bit earlier about how the bushmen, and we spoke about how elephants remember things. And when a young hunter from one of the bushman tribes, from a book I was reading quite a few years ago, about how they were on a hunt, and they went hunting, and the young boy really wanted to, provide food for his tribe. And they were hunting and hunting, and the elder one always said, we don't show our faces to the elephants. So what we do is they dig a big hole in the ground, and they then catch the elephant inside the hole. So they cover the hole up, and then they die in the hole. And you never throw it with spears, because an elephant group will always remember, who did that. And one day, one of the young boys from the tribe was like, okay, I want to get out there and see if I can find an elephant with a spear. And he went looking for an elephant, and he threw a spear at the elephant, and it just grazed the elephant. But the elephant turned around and looked at the man, and he never forgot that man's face. And many, 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 many years later, when the boy turned into an old man, he was walking in the thickets, and he came across that very same elephant. And that elephant didn't forget his face, and he ran up to the old man at that stage, lifted him up, and put him to the top of a tree, the top of a jackleberry tree, so that he couldn't get down, and then he left him there. So for many, many, many days, the old man sat in a tree because of an elephant that put him up a tree, because that elephant always remembered him. But he didn't kill him, he just put him up the tree, and he spent 3 or 4 or 5 days up there before anyone found him. And ever since then, he has grown wisdom and respect towards tribes and respecting the elephants. And just while I was finishing off that story, I just spotted a bird that I love, which is just down here, which is called the banded plover. It's a 3-banded plover. So just to let everyone know, we've had some problems with Jigger lately, and we don't Jigger's the car, and I don't have a lapel, so I actually have to speak into a mic whenever I talk, and so that's why you might be experiencing some bad audio, just to let you all know that. We are dealing with these technical problems as fast as we can. So you can imagine in the bush, it's difficult to fix and do everything when you're quite far away from everything. But isn't that a beautiful bird? A 3-banded plover. We've got that on our bird list, but I know that Dave doesn't, so Dave's now got that on his bird list, and hopefully many of you guys have just written down the 3-banded plover. So that's really, really nice. I don't see any other birds that are at the watering hole this morning, just that little 3-banded plover. What we're going to do now is we're going to drive a circumference of this watering hole just to see if there's any tracks of any male lions that could have come to this area and lie up somewhere. For the time being, I'm talking to my mic, as you can see. Let's go and see how James is doing out in the bushveld this morning.
Okay, we've left the plains of cheetah, and now we're heading more into the woodlands and seeing if we can't find some sign of it. Well, anything really at this. Brian, not filled with vertebrate life out here at the moment. No, really. No. Indeed, invertebrate life seems to be short on offer as well. But look, there are many trees. Here's a marula tree, for example. Marvelous. Isn't that lovely? Oh, and there's a lilac-breasted roller flying north over the horizon beyond even the super zoom of this camera. Very nice there. Hello, Ken. Thank you very much for a question about trees, which I've managed to find many today. Ken, you want to know why a leadwood tree is called a leadwood? It's called a leadwood because it is so very dense. The wood is dense, it's denser than water, and so it doesn't float. And so it's just a very, very hard wood, and that's why they call it leadwood. I think it's also the colour. It's got that very distinctive grey colour. It's not the densest wood out here. In fact, the most common tree out here is something called Combretum apiculatum, or the red bush willow, which obviously now I can't find. Here's one. No, that's not one. The most common tree, I promise, is called the red bush willow, and it has the densest, there's one, that's the red bush willow tree here. See, I managed to find another tree, Brian.
Well done, James.
Is my brilliance overwhelming you?
Absolutely incredible.
Yes, it is. That is the Combretum apiculatum Ken, and Ken, that has a density of 1,000, if I'm not mistaken, 350 kilograms per cubic meter. Now, that in pounds you can work out if you have a calculator or Einstein's brain, but basically it means that it is denser than water. The density of water is 1,000 kilograms per cubic meter, and that means that anything denser than that will sink. And there are a number of woods out here which are denser than water. The zebra wood, the leadwood, the red bush willow, I suspect the russet bush willow as well. And if you burn a log of red bush willow, say about that thick, which is about 1/2 foot wide, say 6 inches wide, that will then, you set that on fire at night, it will burn until the morning. It will burn for many, many hours. It's actually quite difficult to set alight, and that's why when people talk about bushfires coming through an area like this, and it looks like there's all of this flammable material, unless there's an incredible grass load underneath to help act as sort of kindling, none of these trees will burn. They're all so dense that you really got to get a substantially hot fire into them to make them burn. Oh, Steenbok, Brian, it's running, obviously. That Steenbok was running at roughly 75 miles per hour. Not quite. You got him there, Brian?
No.
No. The only mammal that we found on cheetah plains other than the wildebeest, which were in fact on Mala Mala. That's not to say they aren't here. It's much more my incompetence than anything else. Oh, we found the buffalo as well, don't forget. They also ran away though, didn't they? Yes. We saw their bottoms. That was nice. It was a fun sighting. Ah. Right, Steph has got a spider's web that isn't running away, so let's go have a look at that.
James, still full of comments. But we've spied this thicket, for lack of a better word. This thicket made up of about 6 or 7 different trees of Senna petitiana. It is currently my favorite tree, and the reason for that is they seem to be harboring the most unbelievable insect life at the moment. Now, for those of you who are watching James's walk, I think it was not yesterday, it was the day before yesterday, we found a spider that was almost invisible to the eye, that it caught a fly. And now we have just found exactly the same species of flower living in almost exactly the same space. There at the end of my stick, it's not a dead flower, that is in fact the spider, surrounded by her quite small web of quite sticky silk. And my feeling is that this spider is hunting specifically for bees and flies. We saw the last one eating a fly. What a fly would do is come and land somewhere around these flowers, or a bee come and hover somewhere around these flowers and get entangled on these snares. And then she would react by grabbing them. But you can have a look how amazingly camouflaged is she. There she is there, the end of my stick. Can you see her, Jonah? Looking identical to one of these dried up flowers. And I have no doubt that this particular little spider is specific to this plant. But this isn't going anywhere, whereas James's hoopoe will if we don't send you immediately back to him.
And into the bush it goes. Unbelievable. That, everybody, Aaron, in New Zealand specifically, is an African hoopoe. And, well, we probably can move a little bit forward. We are on the right on the end of the super zoom. Brian, can I go forward?
Okay.
And the African hoopoe is interesting because it's a prober. So it's got that long beak that it sticks into the ground, and it looks for grubs and worms and that sort of thing, and it's also got a long tongue, not unlike the woodpecker we saw earlier. There we go. That's a lovely picture of him. That's a male, as far as I'm aware. The female has got much less white on the back. That's really pretty. And you, of course, if you're living in England, I'm not sure in other parts of Europe, but certainly in England, you find hoopoes, which look very similar. And they've got a lovely call, and that gives them their onomatopoeic name. Whoop, whoop. Whoop, whoop. Whoop, whoop. Brian, don't you find the word onomatopoeia to be very satisfying to say?
Onomatopoeia.
See, told you. It gets to the time of the morning when one just becomes a little silly. Onomatopoeia. I think they're such lovely birds. Garda, as we look at non-migratory bird, you say have most of the migratory birds left, or some still around. Almost all of them have gone, Gerda. The only one that I'm still seeing signs of is the plum-coloured starling or violet-backed starling. And they are massing in the trees, but they've been massing in the trees for about 2 weeks now. So why they haven't left yet, I don't know. I would have said that was quite late for them, but I suspect maybe those late rains have delayed their departure somewhat. We postulated that it might, that those late rains might change the times that some of the birds left. There are a whole lot of drongos here. None of them, obviously. Oh, can you see that one there, Brian? No, you can't, can you? Oh, it's teasing us. I can see it. But as soon as I move into a position that you can see it, of course, it will fly away. You see it there?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, there it is. Oh, yeah. They're hawking insects out of the air. And there's some kind of insect emergence here because that hoopoo was around here. The drongos are all flying around. And they are brilliant at catching insects in the air. That's why they have those very forked tails that they can fan out quickly and change direction, a bit like a swallow. You like how I did that, Brian?
I did.
Does it look like a bird turning in the air?
It does.
Sorry, I'm really struggling with my comms this morning. I think we're going back to Steph. He's no doubt got something very interesting to show you.
These flowers are definitely not failing to surprise us with what little colonies or these little communities of life that they harbor. At the moment you're watching a spider that is less than 1 millimeter big. To give you some scale, I'm going to put my finger next to it. This is my baby finger. You can see that spider hunting on the main stem. Obviously that spider relies on camouflage, not to become prey herself, but also to stay hidden, and would be an ambush specialist, waiting for prey to come to her or him. And have a look at that. Isn't that amazing? Hey, that while we're staying wide, that there's my baby fingernail. Have a look at that spider at the end of that. Chandra, just get in there a little bit. Hunting the underside of these leaves, and you can see the two black eyes, the median eyes, the eyes in the front, giving that spider binocular vision. There we go, those black, let me see if I can get it. There we go, you'll be able to see it now it's facing us. There we go. I'm going to go out a little bit and see if you can see those two eyes. I think they're eyes. It's actually so small I can't even see myself, to be honest with you. But I think that the two darker spots on the face are eyes, although they could be camouflage. I'm going to show you. And we just have to send Jandre a little bit further back so that we can engage the super zoom on this camera. This thing is so tiny. I don't think I've actually seen a spider smaller than this. I'm sure there are. Have a look at that. Now, most insects can actually detect movement very, very well. They can strike incredibly quickly at movement, but they need movement in order to judge their prey, or in able to judge their what is prey and what is branch, I suppose. And this little spider would be waiting exactly where she's waiting at the moment, waiting for something to fly up and land on this leaf, and then she'll grab it. I don't see any web. She has got some stabilizing lines. As I've watched her walk, she's touched her abdomen to the leaf, giving her an anchor point for some of her silk. Can you see those eyes, Jandre? It's actually too small for me to see. I'm going to actually show you a trick now. Once you've had a good look over there, I'm going to show you a trick that we use in field guiding. It's my magnifying glass. You take your binoculars and you actually turn them the opposite way around. And at some point, they become magnifying glasses. And even then, I can't tell you whether or not those are eyes on the front or whether they are camouflage. I'm going to take a guess here. I'm going to say that those two brown spots that we can see are eyes. And the reason why I'm going to say that is because she's already such a camouflage little insect. I can't imagine what an extra piece of camouflage on her face is going to help her. I think those are eyes, two quite large eyes, enabling her to see moving prey. And as that moving prey comes in, as it lands, whap, she grabs it. And it landed there because she is so camouflaged that, that they wouldn't have seen her there. All right, now, enough from that. Sorry, my microphone had fallen off. Excuse the faces that I'm pulling while I'm busy doing it. Now for the next set of flowers here. Now generally I react the same way. I react to movement or anomalies that I'm seeing as I get close to this. Insects will move from an exposed region to an area that's not that exposed. And when they move, they give away their presence. How I found that spider just now was a little piece of silk caught my attention in the sunlight. It was reflected into my eye, and when I got closer, I saw that little spider that we were looking at lying in wait on top of her leaf. Got another spider here. This one though looks like a bit of a hunter. Definitely not camouflaged. Although, that said, there we go, Jandre. The end of my finger is another spider. And that little spider, a little bit more active than just a sedentary predator. Obviously, running after your prey is energy sapping, whereas if you just wait for prey, quite often it'll come to you, especially if you just, like that little spider. Well, while I carry on walking around this tree looking for something, that spider's run off. We're going to go to some elephant that have just arrived at Buffelshoek Dam with Sam.
So we are now down by the watering hole at Buffelshoek, and we went to go see if we can find and follow up on some of those tracks of the lions on the other side. And as we came back, our prediction was that these elephants would come towards the watering hole, and now we've got two elephants that are displaying what seems like some form of affection between each other. Very, very cool to see this from the other side of the watering hole. I haven't really noticed that we're here, so we've got to watch this interaction from a distance. You can clearly see one of them is a male. Can't quite see what the other one is. The younger one, or the smaller one there, is a male. Two rather large elephants down by the watering hole, getting something to drink. And still the hippo is still here, quite comfortably sitting in the water. It's just an amazing position to be in at the moment, watching these hippos and these elephants. So as I said, we were tracking around this watering hole to see what we could find in terms of the lions that were said to be in this area. And we then came across some elephants, because you can see that the elephants who are now at the watering hole, or leaving it, were quite disturbed by the lions last night, and they've been acting quite anxious this whole morning. So we thought we'd come and search the banks of this watering hole. So there has been no sign of the male lions. It looks like they crossed over into Torchwood, which is just to the north of us. We've had some incredible sightings of elephants, especially over the last 2 days. I feel like whenever I'm with Dave, we just have elephants coming from every direction. So I see that this is a male here, so both of them are males. One of them is now leaving. They seem to be going in separate directions, so there's a little bit of affection between the two. Not just greetings between the two, and one's now off on his way. And the other, this seems to be a very, very large bull that's sitting by the watering hole here. Very cool to be in a setting of both a hippo and an elephant. So we've had an incredible sighting here with the hippos and the elephants. Apparently there's something quite interesting, some sort of animal. I'm not sure what it is. Just heard that it could be quite a strange creature. It's lying up in the grass. Let's go and have a look and see what it is.
3.
So while obviously the great joy of being out here does include the lions and leopards and cheetahs and wild dogs and buffaloes and elephants and things that we haven't seen today, it does of course include the peace of the wilderness. And if you are ever feeling like I am, of course, now dejected by one's own abilities in the world, well, what you should do is lie in a field of grass like this and stare up at the sky while the culms and inflorescences of the grass float above your sort of line of vision, and it is very peaceful. Now this particular kind of grass, which much like the marula tree I showed you earlier is unable to run away from us, and therefore I'm able to show it to you, is interesting in so much as it is growing in what we call a seepline. Now I know that Steph showed you a seepline earlier on, but whether he showed you this special grass or not, I don't know. And it is called the sticky lovegrass, or Eragrostis gummiflua. Now there are two senses that I'm unable to convey to you through, well, there are actually three senses that I cannot convey to you through the lens. One is, of course, touch, the other taste, and the other is smell. That's right. Thank you, Brian, for pointing at your nose. This one is very sticky, and what I'm going to try and do is get an angle. Brian, I don't know if you can get an angle on that there. Maybe it's better from there. You can see, I don't know if you can see, it's shiny. But that node, the node of this grass is very, very sticky. I mean, and it's so sticky that it traps ants. And I think that it is an amazing defensive mechanism to stop ants getting up into the flower and taking away the seeds before they can be, I guess they're probably not germinate, they're probably distributed by the wind. Anyway, if you watch my hand here, you can maybe just actually see, there you can see the glue. You see that?
Hold on. A little bit close, move back a little bit. Yeah, there we go.
You see the glue there?
Yeah, there we go.
There we go. So that's Eragrostis gummiflua. Wonderful name. Now I'm going to taste it. I don't know what it tastes like. Not too bad.
Thank you.
Sort of floral. What do you think, Brian? It's not delicious, I'm not going to lie to you.
No, it's not great.
It's quite bitter, actually. That's Eragrostis gummiflua, everybody. I'm not being sarcastic. I mean, a lot of the time I am, but this time, when I say lying in the grass like that and just watching the grass sort of blow above your eyes as the clouds gently float by over the top of your head is a very peaceful thing to do. Okay, on we go. Brian, that was actually disgusting. I apologise for that.
I'm quite offended by that.
Yet again, Samuel has managed to find an elephant.
So we are back with the big bull elephant and the hippo that are now in the same picture, which looks very cool. And we thought while we were tracking the lions out around the dam that we would sit here for maybe a couple more minutes, because there were a breeding herd of elephants following this big bull not so long ago. So hopefully through the bushes we might just see a number of elephants come through. So it's worth a wait. And it's even better just watching this big bull elephant as he plays with his trunk by the waterside. Hopefully he'll put his trunk back in that water and sip some of the water up through his trunk and pour it into his mouth. So we've had, I mean, as I keep saying it, but we've had very cool sightings with elephants, and what's been quite significant through all these sightings is the way in which their trunk is such an important part of their life, and how it influences their way of life, and how dexterous and movable, and how they can collect water, pick up and get browse leaves from the top of trees to break branches. And I'm not sure if anyone's seen the movie The Jungle Book. I was watching the beginning of it the other day. I was just, that feeling that you get from the elephants in that movie is the same feeling I get when I look at these elephants. Just the influence that they have on ecosystems. I know it's from a story book, The Jungle Book, but it still gives you a good picture of what it feels like to be around an elephant, and their influence within the ecosystem, and how they contribute to the greater inner workings of ecosystems, and how they build pathways for water to flow. And both of the animals we can see in the shot, the hippo and the elephant, play an important role to the flow of water in an ecosystem. You think the hippo gets up at night time and walks different directions and creates footpaths. Every night it walks the same sort of direction, and doing that will allow water to flow down those footpaths down back to the watering hole, which will help fill up his watering hole. And elephants at the same time are breaking down some of the trees and allowing greater open areas and spaces for other things to grow, and other pioneering plants to grow. So both the elephant and the hippo have such a contribution to our way of life out here in the bush. So very, very grateful to get to know both species a little bit better. It looks like the elephant bull has had his time by the watering hole. It drank some water, met one of his friends by the water, and now is off on his way out into the bush. So we were still looking for a lion. It looks like those lions are lying up somewhere here. So we're going to carry on and see if we can find something lying up in these bushes here. We found tracks coming in here. This thing is scaring me a lot because it's going to go into my eye. So as soon as I'm out of this sight, I'm going to put this thing away from my eye, and then we're going to see if we can find the lion. So time being, let's go and see how Steph's doing.
I'm sorry you lost audio with Steph there, everybody, but you may lose signal with us fairly soon too. We are about to leave Cheetah Plains, but as I stop here, Brian, take a deep breath. All I can smell is the car now. Wait there, I think I can see it. Obviously it's not a mammal, obviously. It's a plant. came through here. You smell it? But which one is it? It's not the Waltheria. The Waltheria doesn't smell of anything. I don't know what it is, but it's lovely. It's a very kind of sweet, subtle, berry-like smell. Anyway, lots of water in this area. That's why we can smell it. Very pleasant. Now, the last time we came through here, we were sort of leaving Cheetah Plains, as I say, the signal was fine. We'll just keep going, easing forward, and if it gets bad, Kirsten, you can tell me and I'll just stop. Oh, there's a butterfly. Obviously, oh, there. Have you got it? It's a whole flock of African jokers, everybody. That's an African joker, papow, and it's eating that Waltheria plant. The Waltheria is the last sort of flowering plant that's around. Isn't that nice? And totally untoxic, but it is painted toxic colours of orange and black, much like the monarch. And that is to ward off potential predators who would think that it is toxic. Very nice. Okay, Steph's sound is back online. We're about to leave Cheetah Plains. Let's go back to Steph and we will go past the horse paddock here.
It's starting to heat up, and with the heat come the flies, and the flies are absolutely an irritation for me. For some reason, they either like the color of my shirt or the smell of my soap, and they come flocking this time of the day. But what we've done is we've basically come into the area where the lions were seen last, and that's always a good thing to do. When you're battling with tracks like we have been this morning, we know that they've been moving around this area. We're getting tracks going in every direction. This morning we had tracks going north, then we had tracks going west. It's always a good idea to come and see where you left those lions last. There is, in my experience, lions that like to go and walk in a circle and come straight back to where they last were. And I think that that may have happened. There's no tracks crossing north into Buffelshoek, and although there's been a couple of rangers around this place this morning, they haven't talked about any tracks, any fresh tracks going in any particular direction at all. So there, my experience is telling me, let's go and have a look where they last lay down and start from there. And this is an area that lion love lying in. It's because it's nice and open, and I think, at least anyway, they've got a view over quarantine clearings, and quarantine clearings is like a magnet for general game. And quite often you find large concentrations of wildebeest and zebra, as you know, that congregate on top of quarantine, and this will give them a nice vantage point to actually keep an eye on what's going on, but without having an effect on those animals. Ooh, I'm just covered in spider webs. They're trailing off myself and Jandre, making us look like Wendy has just sent through a question to ask if when we've finished with bushwalk, we pick off a lot of ticks off our clothes. Wendy, that would depend on where you walk. We do pick a lot of ticks off of these gaiters. And let's take a look and see if we can find any. No ticks today. Generally no ticks on my legs. I have got a bit of insect repellent on my legs, just like the flies. Quickly, James is wanting to give you an update on something. I don't quite know what it is, but you're going through to him.
There's a thrush, everybody. We don't often see these birds. I just saw it fly up out of the ground into the smarula tree, of which we have seen many, and this is called an olive thrush. And I'm just going to play his call for you. He's got such a lovely, unusual call while you watch him. So, Aaron, you've had a great day as far as birds go. Is he still there, Brian? Mm-hmm. I'm just looking him up here. Turf or thrush? Olive thrush. Here he goes. Isn't that nice? I'm just going to stop him because I don't want to make him confuse this chap, but I just love that sound. It's almost as good as the sound of a robin, but not quite. So the olive thrush, everyone. And conspicuous streaked throat is one of the things that they'll tell you to look out for. Very nice. Well done, Brian.
Well done, James.
Thank you very much. As you were. Should we continue? Oh, Brian, it's all happening out here. I can't even drive. There is a butterfly flying around here. It's called a broad-bordered grass yellow. Can you see it? There it is. Absolute genius. This man, Brian, is so fast with the eye. There it is. The broad-bordered grass yellow. That's two things that move that I found you in the last 10 minutes, everybody. Three moving things. We have the joker as well. And that is a tie you can't really see from this super zoomed picture, of course, but the butterfly is about 1/2 an inch wide. It's very small. And it's clinging precariously to that to that little herb. Trying to find some nectar to drink. All right, everybody, that's going to be it from the incredible animal finding team of Brian and James today. Thank you very much for bearing with us as we are going through these lean times. We will see you this afternoon at 3 o'clock. Until then, enjoy the rest of your day. We'll link across to Steph.
From lean times with James to lean times on the bushwalk. Who would have thought this morning, this evening held so much, or last night held so much promise for this morning, and as usual when we try and predict stuff like that, it just has exactly the opposite effect. But definitely we're going to be making our way home now. I can sort of smell breakfast tang on the wind from myself and Jandre. Thank you very much for joining us on the bushwalk, and we'll catch up with you again tomorrow morning.
Welcome back, everyone. It's been an exciting drive this morning. Jumping on board with Sam, then walking through the bush with Steph, and getting on board with James around Cheetah Plains. So we've still got a few minutes left. We're now on one of our main roads. So we're just going to see if we can find any tracks of those lines. We found tracks all the way around Buffelshoek, but it looked like they had moved off into Torchwood, so looks like we won't have any male lines today, but we had some male lines yesterday. I never got to see them, which is sad, but it's okay, you know, I get through it. I'll see them another day. I'll see them maybe tomorrow, maybe. Oh, the mouse bird's beautiful. Seen some mouse birds, so that's a new bird to our list. I can't really get a good visual of it. Let's see if we can go. Sorry about that. Let's go a little bit forward. In that tree, in that knob form there. Like those mouse birds out in the distance there. So we did get visual of it. Can't really see them now. But that's another bird that you can put down on your list. So, James Richard would red-faced. Yeah, so it was a red-faced mouse bird. So I didn't get a good picture of it. We get also a mouse bird in Cape Town, which I love to see, so it's nice to see that one. But we are going to, James, you would like to find a mongoose track. So we've got a few minutes to find that. I'll see what I can do. I'll look on the side of the road and see if I can pick up tracks of a mongoose. Tracks of the mongoose. Do I have it on here? Just looking. Porcupine, aardvark. No, I don't have a mongoose track on here. So I'll see if I can just find one myself. Show you mongoose track. A lot of the time we find white-tailed mongoose. So we'll see if we can find it. He just asked, why are they called mouse birds? That's a great question. I have absolutely no idea why they're called mouse birds. So Kirsty may think that they could be squeaking kind of, because of the squeak they make. I don't know, Kirsty. I don't know. Do you know, Dave? It's a good question. We'll see if I'll find out more about the mouse bird, why it's called the mouse bird. But I think that Kirsty might be right on that one. It has like quite a squeaky sound. It's strange, eh? There's so many different names, different animals out here that have some sort of connotation behind them. So we'll find that out. So we're looking for a mongoose track. I think you know what would be really helpful is if I show you the mongoose track quickly in my little track book that I actually have. So let's porcupine, aardvark, ground squirrels, Chacma baboons. Just looking for the track of the mongoose. There we go. Awesome. So we've got some mongoose at the bottom here, and we were just talking about the white-tailed mongoose, which is the most common one that we see out here, and I often see this white-tailed mongoose. So it's got quite a few claw marks there, as you can see, James, and there's one little dot over there, which sometimes you can find, sometimes you cannot, but there are quite a few others. So there's the slender mongoose, which we often see out here, which is the one that lives in a social group, the slender mongoose. And the white-tailed mongoose is a solitary one. So we'll see what we can do in the next, I think it's 2 minutes, James. But I will be on drive this afternoon, and ooh, no ways. I think I might have quickly found one. Do you see that track over there? So they're right here in front of us. As you go forward, so if you have a look at the tire tracks here, to the right of the tire tracks is a track. So if you zoom in, on the right of the tire tracks, you'll see there at the bottom of the screen now, you'll see a track there. Go a little bit more in front of it. So there's a few tracks. Follow those tracks. So you can kind of see something. I've just picked up what looked like. Go straight in now. Go zoom in and now right. Okay, so you can kind of see the white-tailed mongoose. It's not easy when the sun is directly above us. It's much easier to see a track when it's early morning, when the sun shines on it from an angle. So we can't quite see it right now, James, but I tried my best. We're coming towards the end of drive now, so we'll see what we can do in the future. Can you see them quite clearly when you look at them now, though, eh? Oh. So, just to recap on the morning, it was quite a cold morning this morning. We watched that sunrise, it was beautiful. I had my twin brother that came on to the show a little bit earlier, which was really, really cool to get a question from my brother, who lives in the middle of the city. And, you know, very cool that he can come and jump in. But also I just want to say that if you want to follow anything that I'm doing or like my page, I don't use Facebook that much, so I use Rewild. REWILD. If you want to follow any of the things that I'm doing, the pictures, what I'm interested in, I'd love to hear about it. But at the end of this, it's been a great drive. Thank you, Dave, behind camera. He's been awesome. Kirsty and Geraldine behind the director's seats. Thank you so much for all your help out there in the bush. It's really, really useful, of course. James and Steph. Thank you, James and Steph. We'll see you later for the sunset safari. Much love and see you later.